Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to take a look at using the Border0 client to discover and connect to resources. So let's dive in. All right, so this is the macOS app. I clicked on resources and you can see all of the resources that I have access to. So you see Linux servers, Kubernetes clusters, databases, and all have a unique icon so you can quickly identify what type of service this is. And on top, you also see your most recently used services. So that makes it easy to find your popular ones. Okay, now let's connect maybe to this AWS Prod EC2 instance. You can see a little menu shows up and it will ask me, hey, I found these 3 potential clients for you to connect with. Which one do you prefer? I prefer iTerm2, so I'll click on that. And what you see here is that it now automatically opens iTerm2 and it's SSH'd in. I can now do all of my work. And notice that at no time was I asked for credentials. All of this is being taken care of by the Border0 VPN. And I'm in with my SSO credentials. Next up, let's try and connect to something else. So maybe a database. This prod RDS database is a good candidate. I'll click on that. You can see a similar menu show up. It says, hey, these are all the MySQL clients on your system. Which one do you prefer? Well, maybe I will use Workbench or MySQL. Let's use the CLI. So I'll use the MySQL CLI. It's like, hey, what is the database schema you want to connect to? I'll use books. And a terminal pops up and you can see immediately I am in. And again, no point am I being asked for credentials. Border0 facilitates this whole process. And so you could execute some queries. Maybe I'll open the same RDS database again. You can see it's at the top here now. And we do open with again. And now maybe I'll select one of the GUIs, maybe MySQL Workbench, for example. You can see this then automatically launches MySQL Workbench with the right property, so it automatically logs me in. And now I can do the same work as we did before, but using this GUI and maybe explore some of the tables and select some data, etc. So that's great. If I close this again, I want to show you, if I now click directly on the same node again without open or open with, it just remembers what I did the last time. So once you've selected it once, it will remember that and automatically open it up using your favorite client. All right, now let's go back. I saw a Grafana instance in there. So let's go ahead and access my internal Grafana portal. Let's see what's going on there. So I click on that. A browser will now automatically pop up and it will ask me to log in with my Google credentials. So we'll just log in with my SSO credentials. And as you can see now, the Grafana dashboard is loading and I can look at all the graphs that I need access to. Now, if you notice, if I click here on the top left or top right, you can see my name. So it automatically allowed me to log in to Grafana and my SSO identity is propagated. All right, next up, I also have a Windows machine in a private network. So let's go ahead and try and access that. So I'll go to resources. In this case, I'll scroll down, find the Windows machine and click on it. And now we're going to remote desktop into this. In this case, I'm using the screen sharing app, which leverages VNC. But what you can see is with one click, I am in, and that's how easy it is to access Windows machines. All right, maybe you have Kubernetes clusters. Like in my example, I have a Kubernetes cluster here as the first time I'm accessing it. And what it tells me, the app figured out, hey, you don't have this in your kubeconfig yet. Do you want me to update your kubeconfig file with the right configuration so that you can access it through Border0? Yes, I want that. And then it does that and it says, okay, you're good to go. So let's go ahead and try and get pods. So I'll just open my terminal and let's see what happens. So kubectl get pods. And as you can see, I can just work the way I'm used to. Maybe I can exec into something. Yes, that all works. And so what's really important here is that at no time did I need to fiddle around with certificates or modify my kubeconfig. All of that was taken care of by the Border0 client in just a few seconds. Another really user-friendly way of interacting with Border0 is through our agentless options and basically this web-based client. So on the left side, you can see all the resources that you have access to, organized by maybe cloud provider or region. You can filter out all of the different types of resources that you have access to, or even search by name for a particular resource. So this is super user-friendly, especially if you're on an unmanaged device or some other way you need access using just the web browser. All right, so let's maybe go ahead and find a database to connect to. All right, so we're now in the database just using our browser. On the left here, we see all of the tables. We can quickly explore all of that. I have a few tabs here. I can see historical queries that I did. And click on the schema tab and see the layout of each of the tables, see the types of columns, etc. Yeah, and we can explore some more. So what do we have in this database? I see authors, titles, and types. So there's a bunch of stuff about books in here. And it's really easy to quickly explore this, right? So if you're just wondering, hey, what's in a database? This is super easy to get a good sense of what's going on. Now, obviously, we can go and write a query and figure out some of the top books maybe in here, but maybe you need a little help. So there's a little AI assistant here that you can ask questions. So who is the most common author? Maybe we can find that. And notice how it generates a query. It even has a join in there on authors and titles. Let's run that and says, hey, J.K. Rowling's in this with 4 books. So that's pretty easy, right? Maybe another question. I don't know. What is the most recent book? Okay, so let's submit that. Notice how it generates a query. It actually, Go Set a Watchman. That's great. 2015. So maybe click on titles, see if that's indeed the case. I'll sort it by release year. And yeah, that seems to be the case. Also notice how you can download this just to CSV, so you have it all locally. Or maybe you just want to quickly sort through here as well. Anyways, what you can see here is how easy it is to go and explore your database using just the browser. All right, next up, let's try and connect to an ECS cluster. I have an ECS API cluster somewhere in a staging environment that I need to connect to. This thing runs in a private subnet, and what I'll show you is how we can connect to it using our client interface here, which runs a complete VPN in the browser. Notice how I'm able to log into this thing using just my single sign-on credentials, and now I can do all the work that I need to do. So what we looked at so far is everything I have long-standing access permissions for, but in certain things I need to request access. We can do that from here as well. So we are in the Access Request tab. I am requesting access to this particular database, saying, hey, I need access for 2 hours, and give it a justification. I was saying, hey, it's Jira ticket 123, and I need to apply a change. As soon as I hit Submit Access Request, this request will get routed to maybe your manager or whoever has been provisioned to approve this. And once it's been approved, you will get an email and even a Slack notification letting you know that, hey, your access request has been approved, as you can see here. There's some more things we can do from Slack using the Border0 agent. We can either connect to it directly, but let's just type in /b0 and see all the things that we can do. So you can see there's 2 things that we're allowed to do. We can request access, just like we just did in the web interface, but we can do it directly from Slack. Or we can connect. And if we hit connect, I can see everything that I can connect to right away from Slack. So maybe I am going to connect to this staging chatbot. You can see that same agentless interface is popping up and allows me to log in to this ECS container. And now I'm in, just using my SSO credentials, all launched directly from Slack. Super easy, super powerful. All right, so far we looked at using the desktop app as well as the agentless interface, but some of us really like the CLI, so I want to look at that too. So what we do here is you just use SSH, and then I'm going to tab complete my way to the server that I want to connect to. So here I'm just typing in SSH AWS prod -tab, and you can see how it tab completed my way through it, and it found all of the resources I have access to. Similar with MySQL, I'll just tab complete that, and I'm in that particular database. And so what's really powerful here is that I can keep using the tools that I was used to, and we augment that with the Border0 resources that we've made available. There's also a Border0 client command. So in this case, Border0 client SSH. And then when I hit that, it will list all of the Border0 SSH or shell targets that I connect to. I can just type AWS and it will show me all of the ones that match that particular string. Hit enter, and now I'm in, and can access everything like I'm used to, but using a really nice interface to quickly find what I have access to. The same for databases. Border0 client DB shows all the databases I have access to. Maybe I want to connect to that same RDS database. Says, hey, which client would you like to use? Maybe the MySQL CLI client. Okay, the last time you used the database books, and there you go. So again, we can do all the work I need to do using the tools that I'm familiar with, the same CLI tools, for example, and just makes my life easier. Last but not least, let's take a look at exit nodes. Think of an exit node as a secure gateway to the internet, giving you a predictable, consistent egress IP address, which can be really useful for testing or situations where you need a static IP address for testing or allow listing an IP for a third-party application. So as you can see here, we have a list of exit nodes that I have access to. Right now, let's click on the first one, the AWS CA Central one, and I'm going to refresh this page. And what you'll see is that my IP address changes to an IP address in Montreal. And as you can see, it's in Montreal on AWS, right? So that was really quick. Just to show you how real-time that is, I saw one in Stockholm as well. So let's go to Europe instead. So we've selected that. Now I'm going to refresh this, and now it should show that I'm coming out of Stockholm. And that's how easy it is to change an exit node and change your egress IP address. So let's recap what we've seen today. We explored the Border0 desktop app. We saw how we can quickly discover what we have access to and access servers, databases, web applications, and even Windows machines. We also looked at the agentless web client, fully built-in VPN in the browser, and that allowed us to basically access servers and databases, came with that query engine to help us build these SQL queries. We looked at using Slack for access requests, as well as to discover what we have access to and one-click launch from Slack. For the CLI fans, we saw how Border0 seamlessly integrates with your preferred CLI tools, basically enabling you to keep using what you're used to. And finally, we showed you how to use exit nodes, allowing you to browse the internet from different places on the internet, basically leveraging your connectors around the world. So with Border0, engineers are empowered to focus on what matters most, building amazing things securely and efficiently.